Hey, so I'm back again talking about a different game today. We're talking about Fall Guys, the fact that it's going free to play. I think next Tuesday is 21st of June. It's also coming out to Xbox and Switch. But I wanted to talk about an article that Mediatonic, or the dev team, whatever, put out discussing some of the monetization and some of the currency and economy changes that are coming to the game when the game goes free to play on all platforms, including Xbox and Switch coming. So I think there's meant to be new content as well, and crossplay parties, and all the all the stuff you usually expect from a season. But this is kind of like a relaunch for the game in a free-to-play form. And I found this article really telling. It's like a perfect summary of why I don't like free-to-play models, or at least, and not so much why I don't like them, but why I just genuinely believe that they are. A lot of the time they're bad or they're uninspired, and particularly this one and a lot of ones that we see in a lot of games now are just, very uninspired and almost copy-paste. It's kind of just like, oh, that idea, just take battle passes, all that stuff. But we'll get into all what I think in a bit. I'm going to read some quotes from the article and sort of just run through it with a few thoughts and kind of summarize it all at the end. So they start off talking about, I guess, the biggest new part of it, which is a new premium currency that they're calling Showbucks. And they say, these can be used to purchase the Season Pass and can be spent in the Fall Guys store on items such as costumes, emotes, and more. Most items that can be purchased with Showbucks are of uncommon rarity or higher. Showbucks are available for purchase within the Fall Guys store. You can also unlock $300 in our free progression path and $1,200 in the Season Pass. I think the Season Pass is obviously the paid part of it, so you get $300 for free, or you get $1,200 if you... I don't know if that's $1,200 extra, or if that's $1,200 including the $300, I'm not too sure. Who knows? But as soon as I saw that, I knew that it was negative. Again, it ties into something else later, so I'll leave that bit for now. One quick thing I will just say though is that it seems like, because the passes cost 950 Showbucks, so it seems like you can actually buy one, complete it, or at least earn enough back from it, and then you can buy the next one kind of for free. So I guess if you're committed and you're into the game, it seems like there's going to be a bit of a pretty decent loop there. The next section, they talk about kudos. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, kudos is kind of like the kind of like in Fall Guys currently you have crowns, which is like the equivalent of premium currency, but you can't buy it. It's kind of like a high tier currency you earn by winning. And then they have kudos, which is kind of like the participation reward. And so they say here that with the introduction of Showbucks, the items that you can spend kudos on will change, as have the ways that you can earn them. With the free-for-all launch, you will no longer be rewarded kudos at the end of matches. However, you can still earn them during events, through challenges, and unlock them via the Season Pass. So here, again, it's extremely obvious. They're talking about how once the game goes free to play, you won't be able to earn as much. Instead of them being just kind of passively earned through pretty much everything you do, or at least challenges and just by playing, they're now being restricted entirely to those challenges, which are time limited, and events and things, as well as the Season Pass, which obviously you can only earn the rewards from that once. So yeah, it's restricting how much you earn, and it's kind of taking that away as a participation reward. In that, if you wanted to keep earning kudos, you either have to keep playing and just grinding XP to level up your pass, or you just have to complete your daily challenges, and once they're done, well, you can't complete them again, so then they're gone. And they also continue to talk about kudos afterwards, saying, once we go free-for-all, kudos can be used to purchase single costume pieces of common rarity, common colours, all nicknames and nameplates, as well as common faceplates and patterns. You'll find kudos items available to purchase in the weekly kudos section of the store, as well as occasionally in the daily section. And they, I've highlighted it in bold in my notes, they say, which will only show you unowned items. So that last part is kind of like, that's a nice little feature, or at least like a nice, the fact that you'll only see stuff you haven't got. But this is the part I was referring to earlier when I said I'd get back to it. Earlier, they mentioned that the items that you purchase with Showbucks were of uncommon rarity or higher, or I think they said most of the items. And then here, they pretty much say everything you can earn is just common. It's basic, at least in terms of the rarity. Of course, your preference might prefer like something more simple, but at least in terms of what they consider on the rarity side, it's the more basic stuff is what you earn, the cooler stuff is what you pay for. And the only thing that isn't limited to that common rarity are nameplates and nicknames, which are just kind of pointless items that are just like, oh, okay, it's a word I can put my name, or it's an emblem kind of thing. It reminds me very much of like how sprays are in Overwatch or ghost projections in Destiny. They're just kind of like really pointless items that it almost like it serves like zero purpose in the game other than to exist, and yeah, I just don't get it. Now, of course, kudos were never as valuable as crowns, right? At least, in the game now, they're not as valuable as crowns. But there were occasionally some like higher quality or rare items that would rotate in the shop and you could spend kudos on. And currently, and how the game was when I was playing it, I think sometime last year, if you saw something in the store for say 7,000 kudos and you had 4,000 kudos, it didn't matter about how many challenges you had or anything like that. You could, if you had enough time, you could go and play the game and you could kind of grind and get some more kudos. Whether you win or lose, you would eventually get enough kudos to go and buy that item. Now, I always thought that the store was a bit of a strange thing anyway. The sort of it's like an item shop in a game that doesn't have that kind of currency, all the premium currency and stuff. But it's still a weird system in itself. But the idea of being able to see something you want and actually go and play to go and earn it is something that soon won't be a thing really. And yeah, I think with these upcoming changes, it's unlikely that you'll actually be able to do that anymore. And then, as I said, they throw in the, showing that the store will only, or the daily section will only show you unowned items, which again, I guess it means you have a reason to check in each day. And it's kind of, it's a nice little change they sort of throw in there, but it's not really anything crazy, and it certainly doesn't make everything else better. But anyway, they go on to talk about crowns. And obviously, I've mentioned crowns, and they've said here that, quote, crowns will retain their status as S-tier bragging rights, but will no longer be a spendable currency. They will earn you crown ranks, just as they did previously, and as you progress, new costumes. We have expanded the crown ranks with new costumes to make it all the more enticing to ascend. You can still earn crown shards via challenges and certain limited time modes to accumulate more crowns. And so I thought the first thing they said there was quite funny. Them saying crowns will retain their status as S-tier bragging rights. I'm like, no, they're not. Because the thing about crowns right now is that if you see someone with an item that you can only buy with crowns, if that's a thing, again, I'm not too into Fall Guys, but from my understanding, there were things that were reserved for crowns, and you could only buy them with crowns. You knew that person had won a certain number of games. Now, I think it's a little bit hard to quantify exactly because, of course, new items aren't... It's not like there's always new items to buy. Eventually you could probably buy up everything, and then you might have a stockpile of crowns. But even so, you sort of could understand that item was because they had won matches and they'd kind of paid off. And it's like, so to me, I'm like, how do crowns retain their bragging rights when you can't spend them on any items and there's no tangible quality to actually earning them? Like, they're literally just a thing that you grab now, I assume, at the end of stages, and that's what denotes that you've won. And of course, it contributes to a career rank kind of thing. And yeah, so essentially the store as it is now is entirely set up so that you can buy things with crowns and kudos. And the only paid items were on platform stores, kind of thing, like extra DLCs. They're like $3.99 or whatever, and they're just like a few extras that you can buy. And obviously, soon it's going to be that the entire store seemingly is going to be entirely microtransaction, entirely paid items. And it's like, again, like they mention here about the crown rank system expanding. As I said, that's basically like Fall Guys' career. You have like a career level, I guess. It's kind of that persists through every season. It's not a season rank. It's kind of it's always going up, sort of thing. And it's like, sure, like they're adding more to that, but it's like that doesn't mean that everything else is suddenly better, kind of thing. It's like, no, it's just like, oh, that's one like, oh, with the smallest thing you can do. And again, it's like it's not as obvious to kind of work out that you can get that item. It's like, oh, as far as I understand, there is actually no way to see what rewards are on the crown rank thing, so you can't even see all of what's to come. That could have changed now, or I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that was a thing when it came out. You knew what your level was, and I think you could maybe see the next reward, but you couldn't actually see all the rewards. You couldn't look it down on a graph and be like, oh, cool, this is what I get here, and things like that. And then, of course, because crowns aren't are going away as a currency, they say here, quote, because you can no longer spend crowns, but you can spend kudos, we will convert any leftover crowns in your account into kudos when we launch on June 21st. You will receive 3,000 kudos for every crown. Now, obviously, they want to make money here, that this is why it's not converting into the other currency, but it's like, they're on about crowns being a high tier currency, and it's going to retain its S tier bragging rights, but yet they're turning into something that's going to only be spendable on basic items. Like it's like I just, again, it's like this blatantly obvious. I'm like, this article, it just really feels like this article is like one of the most clearest examples of how free to play models are just not very good. But not very good in the on the player, consumer friendly side, if you will. But I'm sure they're good for money. Yeah, and as I said, I've written in my notes, as I said here, it's that crowns don't stay as bragging rights. That's literally it. So I don't really understand that comment. And any rewards you do earn from them will be the same as everyone else because it's just contributing to the crown ranks. And then they have the crown shards, which I don't fully understand the system, but it's kind of like you need X number of crown shards to make one crown or something like that. There's a couple of miscellaneous sections that they kind of throw in here before the next bigger topic, but they talk about rarity changes, saying that some cosmetics are going to go higher rarity, some are going to go lower. I would imagine a lot will go down, potentially to facilitate more sort of flashier items later, but we'll see about that. They talk about the season pass, the battle pass. It's again, there's nothing much here. They say it's going to cost 950, which is very similar to Fortnite's battle pass, which I'll get into more of that in a bit. And much like Fortnite, they have an instant unlock for when you purchase the battle pass, which is Ezio. It's a Ezio skin from Assassin's Creed 2. And so then they talk about how the item shop is changing, or they just call it the store, but item shop, everyone knows what an item shop is. And they say, quote, "For launch, we've overhauled our entire store system, and there will now be multiple sections with frequent refreshes. Costumes with matching uppers and lowers will always be shown in your item shop at the same time. DLC packs will also be removed from purchase on Steam and PlayStation, and instead, costumes from the DLC will appear in the store in various ways at a later time." This one I get for the fact that they obviously want to push people to the MTX, but I also think it's like, again, it's this taking the thing that's confusing me about this one is when they say that they'll potentially come back later, but in various ways. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean they're gonna take what was $3.99 before, separate them into different parts, and then kind of sell them at higher cost? Are they gonna have them as kudos? Maybe they'll show up as kudos. Maybe they'll be generous. But I just don't. Again, it's just like I don't understand. It's like, again, it's the same thing as everyone's moving to the whole in-game item shop thing, and it's like, I miss those days when it was like you could buy something off the store. It was like, oh, $3.99, you'd get like a skin and some other stuff, and sure, the value of that was probably not worth it, but it's like, I guess this is more in the game. Maybe that's why in-game stuff is better, but it's not so much that it's just in-game, it's the fact that the cost, goes up. They then talk about the sections of the store. They've got a season section, which they say is for purchasing the full season pass and some of the bundles. And they say some of the bundles will contain showbooks as well as some costumes. And they say that new items are added to it throughout the season. They have a featured section, which will apparently say it has quote, "New and returning favorites from seasons, old and new, will appear in the section, which will refresh fully every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday." That one's particularly interesting because they mention about how it's going to have stuff from older seasons, and it's like, well, stuff from older seasons was purchasable with kudos and crowns, but now that crowns are going away and kudos have their own section on the store, which they say afterwards, they say there's a section for kudos items that is updated every week, and they say the classic items will be updated daily there. Does that mean the featured section is going to be some items that used to be earnable are actually going to be paid now? Like, is that how they're going to do that? Because they have in the kudos section specifically, the currency that you can earn, they specify that this is the kudos store will sit here. Whereas in the other section, they don't even specify the currency. So that's interesting. And then of course they have a section for purchasing the different amounts of show books. And yeah, there's not much to say here overall, really, but more speculation. But I don't like it because it's an item shop, and I don't really like item shops in there. I don't like item shops in the way that it's very much like heavily focused on paid items, of course, which I think trivializes part of the reason for playing the game. But then they go on to the next bit, and I think the next part is the last kind of big section they hit. So they talk about challenges, and they go on to say, quote, "We've also overhauled our challenge system as part of our move into launch. Instead of only daily challenges, you will now have weekly and marathon challenges available to complete. In daily challenges, you will earn kudos to spend as well as fame to level up your season pass. Weekly challenges award fame but no kudos, and marathon challenges will earn you crown shards to help you climb well, I mean, I think you will be climbing the clown rank ladder. I'm going to call it the clown rank now. That's going to mean it's not crowns, clowns. You're clowns if you play this game. Yeah, so, they say here there's more challenges to complete. Sounds cool, That sounds like a good thing. That sounds like a positive. The questionable thing to me, though, is that, well, your daily challenges, they give you kudos, I think, and fame. Fame is basically the XP for the Battle Pass, for anyone unaware. So, dailies giving kudos and fame, that sounds alright. Weekly challenges, though, well, they don't give kudos, but they do give fame. Now, I don't know why a challenge that's going to take you longer technically gives you less in terms of quantity of rewards, even if, say, you might get a lot of fame, but it's like, why are there not kudos there? You're already removing kudos as an earnable currency. Why not? Why not keep them? Why not have them as weekly challenges? I mean, I know why they're not there, but just throwing in the question for people to, food for thought. And then they have marathon challenges, which for some reason they don't give any relation to time. I'm assuming they're seasonal challenges, maybe they're every month, I don't know. Obviously they don't give fame or kudos, but they give crown shards, which, as I said before, is for your clown rank. I'm going to keep calling it clown rank. But can't say much about this, but I'm sure these will limit progression. So yeah, I think that's the bulk of the stuff they talk about. So I just want to give it some overall thoughts. So, I mean, I think you can get the angle I'm coming at this from already. But, I mean, one thing here is that they don't mention many numbers. I think they mention some numbers, but they don't mention numbers in terms of what you earn, really. There's no mention of any new pricing for new items. They don't say how much these showbook packs are going to cost. And it's like how kudos, right now, are earnable as an earnable currency that you can earn as many as you want, and you can play as much as you want, and you're going to keep earning them. But soon, once it goes free to play, you won't be able to. They'll be limited to limited sources such as daily challenges. Once you've done those challenges each day, you can't earn any more. Your weekly challenges, no, you can't even unlock that. You can't even get any more from them. You can't get any from winning. You can only get them from the battle pass at that point, unless you come back the following day. To me, it's like, yeah, it's like them saying, yeah, you can play as much as you want. Right now you can play as much as you want and you'll keep earning, but soon, once you play a certain amount, no, you'll be locked out, and instead you'll just have to come back each following day to kind of keep earning things at a consistent rate. So I guess, it keeps people in the loop of keep coming back each day or whatever. And I think, to me, this just all of these changes. My biggest problem is it's so uninspired and it's copy. Like I said, it's copy paste, and of course it's not. That's not how game dev works. It's not just copy paste, but it's like this is how every free to play and live service game pretty much is. And what I find hilarious about all of this is that this article just like shines a light on it in this like most blatantly obvious way that I'm like, holy shit, you must realize this. People who read this article have got like they're literally saying to you the cool stuff is like slightly less basic and higher. Yeah, that's only paid. But the non-paid stuff, the stuff that you earn, yeah, well, not only are we limiting your currency and restricting you to how much you can earn each day, which we're not doing right now, we're also going to heavily restrict you on what you can buy. So the only thing you can buy with the in-game currency are the low-quality stuff. So all the cool stuff is for if you pay. And not only that, I'm sure that they're going to have those prices jacked up high anyway. And to me, it's like so many of these changes just defeat the whole purpose and rewards loop, gameplay loop of Fall Guys. The whole game is framed as a game show like Takeshi's Castle or Total Wipeout, and the crown at the end when you get to the final and you grab it, that's the goal. It's and much like how I mean, I don't know what the reward is for winning Takeshi's Castle or Total Wipeout, but whichever there's I'm sure there's a reward or whatever for winning those. So it's like here there's a crown, and that crown is not just a thing that you just grab. It's a tangible reward that you actually get a counter, and you get to collect as several crowns, and you get to spend those crowns as a currency on some more unique cosmetics. So then you can play more and buy more, and it kind of the game's very addictive, and it's one of those that as annoyed as I got at it, I kept playing it anyway. It's a very addictive game. So to me, like right now, there's a pretty, it's a simple loop, but it works, and connects the entire game. The goal of the game connects with the progression system, which connect, and there's a very addictive loop that's going on. But with these upcoming changes, that entire loop is just basically being destroyed to be like every other game where there's no kind of proper reward for winning. There's no like, oh, you won, here's more stuff, or you're better at the game, here's more stuff, or there's kind of the idea of, oh, you've played more, you get more, but it's less you play more in terms of hours. It's more you play more as in you keep logging in every day and you keep earning stuff. It's almost like they want you to load up the game, burst through your challenges, play a little bit, play for an hour or two, stop playing, come back the next day, and they want you to keep coming back every single day. And I know exactly why these are all done, why all these systems are done. None of this is about some kind of ignorance I have to the reasons, and because this is going to make a ton of money. I'm sure they're going to make more money this way than they used to. But I think as a result of all these changes, the game becomes less interesting and it becomes less fun. I personally was going to potentially check out the free, the game next Tuesday, just to kind of, see what the new stuff is like, and it's got crossplay pies, so I can play with a friend on PC. But with all these changes, I just can't be bothered. I just genuinely can't be bothered. I feel like I'm going to load it up and it's going to be worse when I actually see it in the game, And what I find funny is I get stuck in this loop. Like, games supposed to be for fun, so you're meant to play them for fun. But I'm just like, but I can't enjoy a game when it feels like a good chunk of the game is locked off. Locked off essentially with all these, just all the paid only items and having to be locked in the game and only play that game for like the rest of your life. And it's like, what's funny was, it's like when I was playing it before, it wasn't like I wasn't winning loads of matches. I won some, but it wasn't that many. But this whole new system is basically making it much less rewarding for everyone on all levels. Like, if you're good at the game, you get less, and if you die or you mess up, you get less. And it's not just a bit less; it's like significantly less. It's one that completely changes the reward part of the game. And I just don't. I mean, I totally get why these changes are done, but I'm just also like, I don't understand why they have to go this hard on just derailing everything just because they want it to be free to play. And I have a bit of a theory about that, which I'll get into in a minute. But I just want to say, it's not that the monetization or monetizing a game is wrong, because of course, when it's a free to play game and you need some kind of way to sustain it, and Fall Guys is obviously Fall Guys has and has been for a while like a live service game, so it's understandable that they want to have some form of monetization to keep people playing. But it's like this, like I said, it's just so over the top, and it's the kind of regular thing you see from all free to play titles. It's less rewarding to play. They save the good items for the item shop. They add more stuff that you have to buy. Everything costs way more than it used to, or than it probably should. They demand that you play tons every season. They kind of want to keep you playing over and over again every single day, every week, every month, every season, every year. And they restrict rewards, again, sort of tying into that, so that you log in more. And it's just, there's so much about free-to-play models that I think are bad. And I think this Fall Guys article, and I assume the game itself, is just going to perfectly showcase exactly why that is. Like, they spell it out to you. And I seriously don't care. And some people that play the game, seemingly in the replies on Twitter, some people, aren't happy. Some people don't seem to be bothered by it. This personally, I feel like it's just like, this is something that people need to really realize, and the game that they enjoy is going to be changed. Now, I guess it's fair enough if it doesn't bother you, but I'm just like, I don't know how it can't bother you, because it's like, unless you just clearly play the game for only playing. If you don't care about any of the skins, then that I can understand. But anyone that has any interest in like the cosmetic side, or that likes playing to earn and earn stuff, it's like, this is derailing all of that. But I think this brings me on to my last point. That I found that some of the notes here and changes interesting, in relation to, well, another game, in relation to Fortnite. We know last year that Fortnite, or Epic Games, purchased Tonic Games Group, which is the parent company of the Fall Guys developer Mediatonic. And since then, I think it was in March, or around about March last year, so it's been like, just over a year now. Since then, we've had crossplay come to the game. Soon it's going to come, I think, fully with parties and everything next week. And it's going to be releasing on Xbox and Switch, and obviously going free to play at the same time. The first season is free as well, so they're kind of getting people in that way. There's been a lot of crossovers with other games, which at first I put down to the notoriety of Fall Guys. I thought, oh yeah, it's a big Fall Guys was kind of it's not something not as big, and I think dropped off for pretty quickly, but it still had a lot of people knew about it. It was free on PS Plus. So I sort of put down to that, but I'm actually wondering if it's more of an Epic Games thing, like because they own the company, they're able to kind of secure more of these deals and everything like that. And some of the things they talk about in this article are very similar to Fortnite. For example, their premium currency, Showbucks, are like Fortnite's V-Bucks. Uh, the cost of the battle pass in Fortnite is 950 V-Bucks, and in Fall Guys it's going to be 950 Showbucks. And the same way where you can unlock the next pass by earning, the currency back on the current pass, it'll actually buy the next one. Exactly the same as how Fortnite works. And then of course you've got the whole system of the item shop with the multiple sections being similar, and then the lack of earnable rewards. And as I said, what's funny is Fall Guys is Fortnite released without those rewards that you could earn. Fall Guys exists with those earnable rewards, and then it's getting rid of them, or it's taking away, or at least it's changing it to a point where you won't be able to earn them, or at least you certainly won't be able to earn as many. And I'm just like, I think a lot of this maybe comes from Epic. That maybe they are pulling some strings, and I think the one thing that would really sort of show whether this is true or not, well, I mean, it does. I guess it doesn't confirm it, but it's like we don't know the pricing of Showbox. But I'm like, if they are like the same numbers in the bundles that they have, as well as the same pricing for those bundles, I think that would be another telling point that points towards Epic Games being the kind of the puller of strings, as it were, in regards to this. But yeah, I think this whole thing's disappointing to me because I'm not into Fall Guys that much. I played a fair amount of it before. At one point during one of the seasons, I earned the Ratchet and Clank crossover stuff because I like Ratchet and Clank. But the one thing I thought about Fall Guys was it was a game that I could compare and say was a good standard of a live service style game, where it was like they have some DLC stuff, but they mostly have earnable items. And I expected it to change at some point, but I don't know if I expected it to change as much as this, but I think in some part I did, but I also thought that it had taken them so long to do anything that they wouldn't go as hard as this, but I guess maybe you could see it the other way, that maybe because it's been so long, this is why they're going so hard on it all. As I said earlier, I think it's understandable if they couldn't support the game for years and years without some kind of return, consistently. But I think this whole free-to-play direction and the baggage that comes along with it, it's not worth it. And to me, when I say it's not worth it, it's like, I mean that from the player's end, for me or any player who likes Fall Guys. I don't mean that, for business decision, it's no doubt going to make tons of money for them. And I'm sure it's going to pay off massively. But yeah, I just like I said, I was incredibly disappointed. I had a rant on Twitter about it, and I think I even replied to their tweet and to the Fall Guys tweet, and I did it because it was just like, I'm just so tired of this just crap like creeping into so many games. And I was I'm not against Fall Guys. I found it frustrating and stuff, but it's like, I just think that there's so many there's different ways that things can be done, and yet, another game is just doing the same whole system, item shop, premium currency, paid battle pass, lack of rewards in the game, restricted rewards, and this, as I said, this article spells it out plainly, and it's probably the clearest, explanation and clearest, visualization of that I've ever seen. Like, the fact that they are using the terminology of, oh, this is the rarity you can earn, this is the rarity you have to pay for. I'm just like, I'm sorry, if you read this, you've got to read it, and those words are key words, and they're obvious. Like, it's not, this isn't flashy PR speak. This is like, no, they're talking to you like the game kind of thing. And I just, like I said, I found it pretty insane, disappointing, incredibly, and it's really put me off the game. I know it's not going to change their financials. I'm sure they're going to do just as well. But I hope that soon, or with this, whether it be this game or another game, that people really actually notice this and pipe up about it, and sort of say that, not so much that we can't have any monetization at all, because I think that's unreasonable, especially in today's day and age, but just to the point, or just to the the extent that this is, because this is obnoxious. I think it's terrible, and I really have a big issue with it, and I think they need to. I want to see some change. I want to see a free-to-play game execute a sustainable, long form development and live service sort of development and updates and content and seasons, and do all of that without having to just do what everyone else is doing. But yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling about that. I guess one quick thing I'll say is that some people might say, "But Josh, you like Destiny, and Destiny does that." And I'll say, "Yeah, you're right," and I don't like it in Destiny either. But I think that's another conversation I can get into, and I guess if that's a discussion that you want to hear, then we can have that discussion, because I'm down to talk about it. I'm down to talk about why I think Destiny is less of an offender in that regard, but I think Destiny is more of an offender when it comes to the overall monetization and the what content that you buy and everything. But yeah, I think that's it. That's concluded this sort of rant. Wasn't planning to talk for as long as per usual, but it's kind of a deep dive into kind of my thoughts on this free-to-play model while using forgoes as an example. As I said, I think this is a pretty funny article. I think it's an obvious example of what I don't like, and how literally bad, like just negative, that these games get to change when they're made into free-to-plays, whether it's from launch or whether it's from like Fall Guys is going from normal to free-to-play. Yeah, I think this is a pretty disappointing and negative turnout for the game. I'm sure it'll be a positive turnout for their financials though. But anyway, that's kind of it for now. I will shush. Hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this. Tell me if you know what you think, whether you agree or disagree, or any topics you want me to talk about. And I'll see you later. And for now, ciao ciao. Have a good day, evening, whatever. And I'll see you later. Ciao ciao again.